Hey, in today's video, we're going to talk about why squats are actually not bad for your knees, contrary to what you may have heard. And it's usually the way that you squat that's bad for your knees. And I will elaborate that. You might have been doing some things in your squats that are potentially causing what we call shearing forces, where joints are not gliding properly. We're putting pressure in certain positions, and it's unnecessary. And I'm going to show you exactly what those positions are and then how to correct them so that you can have a confident squat. And ultimately, it is up to us to be aware of what our bodies are doing in space. And that is not something that you can teach necessarily. And the way that you develop awareness is by having a critical eye, knowing what it should look like and what it should feel like, and then basically stopping and checking with yourself to make sure that you are doing it in that way until you've done it enough times that your brain can recognize what that feeling is and that you're able to do it. So think of it this way: when you're squatting, there are multiple ways to initiate a squat. What most people do when they're squatting is they bend through their knees first, okay? And so a lot of times when they start squatting, people will go like this, their knees bend. And if you look at where my hips have not broken the plane. My hips are still right underneath my shoulders, okay? So the deeper I go, the more I feel pressure in my knees and I feel my thighs loading up, okay? The problem with this though is if I go deep enough, my ankles will run out of the ability to bend, and so this will happen. And this is the classic squat pattern for people who have had back pain because they're afraid of bending their back, they're afraid of leaning over, and they will revert to a completely knee and thigh dominant squat. So if you squat this way long enough, especially under any kind of load, like if you use weight, your knees will eventually be like, dude, I'm over this, I'm going to peace out, and they're just going to say they're done for the day, and they're going to really start hurting. And a lot of times that pain will start manifesting right in the front of the knee joint or on top of the knee joint, depending on where it's originating from. So how do we avoid this type of knee pain in a squat? Well, the first thing to think about is initiating the squat from the hips and the knees at the same time, okay? So what does that look like? So as you descend, instead of just bending from the knees, the hips are gonna break the plane as well, and they're gonna start hinging backwards. And you can see it while I'm doing this, my chest is starting to bow forwards over my knee, okay? And you can see now, keeping my chest over my knee, my squat looks completely different than if I'm only bending my knees and then eventually running out of room and my heels have to pop up. Feels completely different too. All of a sudden now, if I'm folding at the hips and bending at the knees simultaneously, what's happening is as I'm going down into this squat, the muscles in my butt and my hamstrings are lengthening, they're stretching as I'm descending into that squat. And the muscles right here in the folds of my hips, we call these the hip flexors because they serve to flex your hip. They elevate the knee and get that hip joint to flex. Well, those muscles are actively engaging, pulling you into that squat. It takes time to understand what that feels like, but you can see my back is not actually rounding in any way when I'm going down into this squat position. And you see my back is totally neutral. If I were to relax into the squat, sure, my back might round a little bit, but I'm not relaxing. I'm staying active. I'm pulling into it from those creases of my hips. As soon as I do that, knee pain goes away completely, and here is why. Because if you look at my knee, I'm just going to kneel down here for a second. We call this a vertical shin position. So if you look at the tip of my kneecap, and I were to draw a straight line down, it should be directly over my knee. It's a vertical knee or vertical shin, okay? So that's the position that I want my knee to be in at the bottom of my squat. And the reason why a lot of people will have pain in their squats when they reach the bottom of it is because their knee is way past that vertical position. So here's an example. You can see now if I draw that straight line down, my knee is about 4 inches past my big toe. That's 4 inches too far, and that is going to cause wear and tear on that knee joint. And I see people doing this all the time with their squats. They squat with their knees way past their toes, even if their heel remains on the ground. So check this out. So watch, here's my knee dominant squat. So I'm going to draw that line. about 4 inches past my toes. You can see this is about as deep as I can go right here without my heels popping up. Sure, I can go deeper, but now if you look at where the knees are, way past the toes, lots of load in those joints. So this is how we keep our knees safe when you're squatting. It is up to you. It's your responsibility to learn what that position feels like, because if you care about your knees and you don't want to have knee pain when you're squatting and you want to have a long, healthy life, being able to get down on the ground, get up from the ground, things like that, it is important to you to understand that position and be aware of it and build your mobility in your squat, because you can improve the quality of your life dramatically just by learning how to squat properly and then building range of motion in your squat. I will share a video later about how to build range of motion in the squat too. That's not what this is about today. This is just about awareness and developing the mechanics of a successful squat so that you can avoid pain, okay? So I hope this video was really informative to you. I hope you learned something, and if you did and this was valuable to you, please share it with a friend, someone else that you think would value this information as well, because this might be completely eye-opening to them. It might be completely eye-opening to you. And if it is, I hope that you can internalize it and start practicing it. Practice the squat the way that I showed you, the way that we descend from the knees and the hips at the same time, so that the knees end over the big toe, just like we were talking about. All right? So I hope this makes you a better squatter. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.